I do like zero balancing in that you can do a whole session in as little as a half hour. You can even do an abbreviated session in about 20 minutes. On the other hand, I can spend about 50 minutes. So it really all depends on what they're coming for, what I think is best, what they want. We do show, for instance, in our advanced training, we show a couple of these things, the half moon vector at the feet and at the head. We incorporate into the deep massage sections. And you can do it with Swedish too, absolutely. The recommendation with zero balancing is if you're going to be combining two therapies in one session, for instance, Swedish and zero balancing, that it's probably most helpful to do the Swedish first and then to do the zero balancing. So do about a half hour Swedish and half hour of ZB. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll do a half hour with a person lying face down doing myofascial release, or what I call deep massage. And then when they turn over, I'll do mostly zero balancing when they're supine. That works very, very nicely. And what a lot of people want massage for is, you know, just work my back, work my shoulders, work my neck. So you give them that what they want. They're squeezing the tight places here. At the same time, you give them something which is deeper and somewhat more powerfully effective, namely into the skeletal system and not just the muscles. We're musculoskeletal beings, and yet so often it's the muscular system that gets more than its fair share of focus. I mean, I have nothing against muscles. They've been my livelihood and intrigue for a long, long time. But it is a musculoskeletal circumstance we're working with.
So if you're just doing zero balancing, is it in the supine?
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say my practice, I only see about 2 or 3 people a week, but it's probably 75% zero balancing, because people know I do it. And so I spend time talking with people before the session, getting a clearer sense of what really are the sources of stress and how might the massage ZB be most relevant to them. And it works out good.
I guess I was also asking, it seems like you have a certain pattern where you start here and you work around and you finish here. Is that for your efficiency, or is that because you found it works better that way?
Well, that's an interesting question. I would say both,
Okay.
you know, which is both an energy and structure question. But there is a very specific protocol, and I think there's a number of good reasons for it. One of them is because in zero balancing we're focusing as much on energy as structure, it helps me to know what I'm going to do next, to not have to be figuring it out. So it's a little bit like a jazz player. If I know the tune, I can put more of my soul into it. Whereas if I'm trying to figure out the tune while I'm trying to get my tone, it's not going to be as clear. Or same thing like the container for the water. As long as I've got the container, I don't have to invent the glass. I'm going to be able to pour and enjoy that whole process better, like a tea ceremony. So that's part of it. Also, from an anatomical standpoint, the logic is that you start at the beginning, namely the feet. The feet are almost where we uprise from. Then you go to the middle, namely to ribs 10, 11, 12, the dorsal, the lumbar vertebrae, and the sacrum. So kind of go to the middle. Then you address the lower half so that you're really grounding the person first, and really you're working on the third, second, and first chakras in that respect. So part of the initial theme of the session is to get the person grounded, and honestly, by the time you get to their feet, usually they are out there, not necessarily snoring, but definitely in some kind of altered state in a nice way, as footwork will often give rise to, not just zero balancing. Then we go to the upper body, and we keep on concentrating on the thorax because the heart area is so central to everything. You know, lately I've been thinking, how do I know something's true? You know more with your heart than with your head. Your head comes up with hypotheses, but when you ask yourself, well, what do I really know, or how do I really feel? Well, you go to these areas. So it's central to that. From a chakra standpoint, there's 3 chakras below the heart, and there's 3 above. So it's really at the center of the chakras. So you keep on going back to the thorax as the center of the upper body, and then into the head and neck, and then into the shoulders and the arms, and then back down through it all. So it's kind of got an elegance of, I suspect Fritz worked it out in his osteopathic practice that he had in California for the first 60 years of his life. And So it's a protocol that tends to work very nicely. All right. Any other questions, comments? And Cheryl, how do you feel emotionally and
I feel
physically?
wonderful.
Feel wonderful.
Yeah, I really do.
Good.
Feel like all the stress is gone.
Great. Great.
Smiling since you got there.
Ah. Well, it's interesting. They say that our basic nature is blissful. And I think there's some truth to that, because when I feel miserable, it makes me troubled. I want to get out of being miserable. You know what I mean? We want to get into feeling good again. So there's a natural momentum toward feeling good. And this is definitely one of the things that zero balancing does, is it really helps you in the deepest place feel good. Feel relaxed in a place that you didn't even know there was tension in it before.